want to thank the East Thornhill Community Shul for giving me this opportunity to share a little Torah with you this week. This week's Parsha is Parshas Mishpatim, and I want to focus specifically on the last pasuk in this week's Parsha, where it says that Moshe went up to the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, we know, in order to receive the first set of Luchot. The number 40 we know all the way back from Parshas Noach, where it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And over there, Rashi gives us an understanding into what the number 40 represents. He mentioned there that it is a positive transformation. And he gives an example that from conception to the development of a fetus is 40 days. We also know that there are 40 days from the beginning of Elul all the way through Yom Kippur. Another 40-day positive transformation. And I want to look at this pasuk from the perspective of something I heard a few weeks back when I was listening to a podcast from an organization called 1840.org, run by Rabbi David Beshevkin of OU. He had on that podcast that week Rabbi David Foreman, who some of you might know, who runs an organization called alepbeta.org, a website dedicated to teaching Torah. And he's also written several books. On that podcast, he asked Rabbi Foreman how he would categorize the Torah. What genre of a book would he put it in? Is it a history book? Is it a law book? And Rabbi Foreman goes on to explain that it is a guidebook. If you go back and read through this pasuk, it will seem very interesting, because it doesn't just say that Moshe went up to the mountain for 40 days. It actually says something overly descriptive. It says first that Moshe went into the cloud. Then it says that Moshe ascended up the mountain. And then it says that Moshe was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. We know that 40 is a number that represents positive transformation. And as a guidebook, I'm thinking that possibly what the Torah is trying to give us here is a way for us to measure how successful we can be when we want to make a positive transformation in our lives. When we want to do something and move forward and grow in any aspect of our life, whether it's a character trait or mitzvah, time with family, whatever it is, give it 40 days. Give it the time it takes, the Torah tells you, that it would do for positive transformation. But also, being this pasuk is overly descriptive, look at it from the perspective that sometimes when you set out on a task, it's not always going to be the way that you want it to be. Sometimes you'll decide on a course of action. And that course of action, you will realize part of the way through doesn't get you to where you want to go. So maybe you make a change. You make that change and adjust, but you don't give up. You still push through to the 40 days. You find another way to do it, a better way to do it, and then you keep going. The 40-day challenge is about realizing that change is possible, but only if we're committed to it. We have to commit for a certain period of time, and 40 days is very measurable. And don't be afraid to adjust during that process. Don't be afraid to say, this isn't working, but I'm still committed to meeting that goal. I still am interested in making myself better. And hopefully, you'll find after 40 days that you've attained what you were looking for. Thank you and have a good Shabbos.